Howdy, Mix.
Hello.
Hey, alright then. So today we have Poiman64 versus RandomGen, aka Randomly Generated Idiot. That's his name. Poiman is running Enchantress Fight City and Serena. RandomGen is running Beheaded Umina Vega. This is the double elimination portion of Matchup Madness, the largest Exceed tournament to date. Alright, we are
Quick
waiting.
reminder: is this
Mm-hmm.
winners bracket or?
I believe so. I should double check that. Let me pull up the bracket. One moment. We're currently waiting for folks to load into the tabletop simulator room, so we got a couple minutes to kill. Alright, let's see.
Yeah, myself included.
Mm-hmm. No, it looks like this is... Yeah, this is losers brackets. First round of losers, so losers 64. Set number 48 for anyone who's looking at the challenge page. I'll link that in chat for those who are curious. Ashlyn, local Vega main, says she sure hopes to see Vega, unless RandomGen is really bad at Vega, in which case she hopes not to see Vega, and instead to see Beheaded and Umina. Are there any characters on these rosters that you main mix?
None actually. I don't play any of them, mostly because although I think Beheaded and Fight are fun, I never actually got the chance to play them a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're among the newest characters. They were released a little bit after the main body of Season 4, as I understand it. They are still considered part of Season 4, but they're solo fighters, so they come singly packaged. So does Enchantress, come to think of it, although I believe she released concurrently with the other Season 4 fighters.
And there's one more other solo fighter, right?
Yes, that would be, let me think, Spectre Knight, who we don't see represented here. Enchantress and Spectre are among the more complex Season 4 characters. Beheaded and Fight actually dial that down a bit. They are both pretty unique because they care a lot about the timing of their exceed, that is to say, Beheaded and Fight. Beheaded likes to exceed ASAP, but he also wants to be able to capitalize on his short-lived stat boost that he gets from exceeding. And Fight has another short-lived stat bonus when he exceeds, but doesn't necessarily exceed ASAP because he needs to make sure he gets maximum value out of that flip. Enchantress is what we refer to as a boss character in Exceed. She has a unique way to manipulate resources. It makes her feel like she has endless resources at her disposal, and all the cards in the world, but she has to manage them carefully. She also doesn't do things very efficiently in terms of number of actions spent. It can take her a long time to actually push damage out. Umina is a control character. She's interesting. She has a number of lines of play that are all pretty diverse. She can be a heavyweight who trades in close range with stun immunity. She can be a quick mobile tactician and ranged character. She can also be the dedicated control character who plays Exceed like a card game instead of a fighting game. City and Serena are they're also a zoner, but they're more consistently a zoner. Sydney is a gardener who runs around the board, swings with normals. Serena is a plant, just a potted plant, who sits in the center of the board, but unleashes powerful specials and ultras from her position. Late in the game, Serena eats Sydney, grows up to be big and strong, and can now swing with all of her attacks from her own position and becomes mobile. Speaking of mobility, Vega is a wall-bouncing maniac who flies across the screen, dealing tons of damage, but doesn't have a lot in the way of defenses. He also tends to be fairly slow at close ranges, although he does have a couple specials and critical effects that can help him with that. This is a pretty diverse set. We have Seasons 2, 3, and 4 represented here, so a lot of mechanics could interplay. This will be interesting.
Yeah, well, there's actually a lot of solo characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, City and Serena are also solo character. In fact, that's arguably Poiman's theme. Enchantress Fight, City and Serena all come in their own individual boxes. They're not in any of the sets of 4, as is Beheaded. Umina and Vega are in different boxes of Seasons 2 and 3, respectively. This is interesting, yeah. We have a very diverse set of fairly complex characters. I think the simplest character here is probably Fight or Vega, and that's saying something because Vega is pretty difficult as Season 3 goes.
Yeah, these are all pretty difficult to play, difficult to master, really.
Mm-hmm.
Except Beheaded. Beheaded is not very complicated.
No, he has a pretty
It's not
straightforward
scary.
game plan. Exceed, win. Or I should say exceed, and then maybe exceed, and then win. He wants
Yeah,
to
it's not like you mix
exceed a
up
lot.
those wins with exceeding.
Yes, I mean, you're welcome to win earlier, but it's going to usually be pretty difficult. He's pretty reliant on those stat bonuses he gets from his exceed. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Blue in chat says Beheaded is simpler than Vega or Fight in his opinion. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Um, I don't have as much experience with Vega. I'm actually pretty bad at playing Vega, but I'm quite fond of Beheaded and Umina. Let's see. Blue says Poiman not running team low tier. That's right. Poiman64 in his home meta, the taxi meta, has a reputation for being a low tier main, playing characters that are disregarded in the higher levels of play, or underrated. His City and Serena are actually pretty potent in my experience. He's beaten me at least once with them. Enchantress and Fight, I'm not too sure where their reputation stands. They're both very new and very unstable. So I'm not sure what we'll think about them.
Enchantress always looks like really good. That's always her first impression.
Mm-hmm.
At least when I see people look at her the first time.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I see a lot of people underrate her because she doesn't have very high printed damage values. Like if you're looking to deal damage, Enchantress's whole kit feels underwhelming.
Yeah, she definitely needs to work in those damages.
Mm-hmm. Of course, what she gets value out of is her character ability, which lets her reload her hands at will. And then once she exceeds, she'll just always have all the cards forever. Well, we might be waiting for the opponent for several minutes here, so I'm just going to pull some characters out to the side so that folks can look at their abilities. And then I'll switch to that on the screen. Whoops.
I think having fought Poiman, I'm definitely looking forward to see Sydney. I think that's his main all the other Lucy.
I think so too. I haven't fought him very often, but as I said, I've actually lost a game to a Sydney and Serena. He took me by surprise, played them very, very, very well. Better than most Sydney and Serenas that I've encountered, so I was impressed with his skill there. I haven't played...
Yeah, I fought him in pools, that's how I know him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't played RandomGen at all. I actually have no idea what his capabilities are, which in a way makes him, even more concerning, because as far as I'm concerned, he's unknown to me, so I have no idea what to expect from this player. If I was in this matchup, I'd be pretty nervous either way.
Yeah, an unknown Umina sounds really scary. You have no idea what he really wants to do with his game plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Umina's always terrifying. She has a crazy number of options, and if you've played into her, the fear of those options can actually make you play worse, just because, in particular, Hollow Space is such an intimidating card that you have to try to play around it, but just the act of doing that means she can manipulate you any way she pleases. Alright, I'm going to put these characters up on the screen now that I've just about got them up. Whoops. I hit the wrong button there. Ashlyn says, Enchantress is pretty bad at Exceed, but luckily she's not playing Exceed. That's a way we often refer to the characters who play Exceed as more of a card game than a fighting game. They try not to participate in the mix-up portion of the game, and instead to win based on resource manipulation, which is something Enchantress excels at, to be sure.
She can still play the game.
Oh, she certainly can.
She still has buff curve stuff with magical shot and homing shot.
Oh yeah, Homing Orb is extremely scary, especially from opening positions. It's a speed 6 card where the range is based on the number of cards in your hand. So if she is the first player, one copy of Homing Orb will just automatically hit from starting positions, meaning nothing you can throw is safe.
Lots of pushes for, good measure.
Yep, playing that keep away game. Alright, there we go. Now I've got everybody up on screen. I mentioned Beheaded being pretty unusual. He's unique in another way. His character ability is blank. It doesn't exist. In normal mode, he doesn't do anything at all. He is entirely reliant on his Exceed to provide him with a character ability. And there's his actual character ability. Whoop. Jay asks, "Are we finally going to see a 3-hour set?" Well, we might, depending on how long it takes to get rolling. I started the stream a bit prematurely. I should have waited for both players to be in the room. So right now we're just kind of chilling and chatting and looking at these character cards.
Let's just pretend they're all counting cards and not letting the opponent see their hand when the deck is down.
Oh yeah, I just realized not every character is represented. I gotta have Serena out as well as Sydney.
Well, flip Serena, please.
So I know if I was Poiman, I would probably run Serena first. Well, Sydney first into this lineup, just on the basis that I think Sydney is the most stable of these characters and the one least reliant on matchup knowledge. Enchantress, I really want to know what my opponent is up to before I run her. And by the same token, I probably wouldn't run Umina first, because Umina is a character who is strongly reliant on matchup knowledge. Having both Enchantress and Fight means that randomly generated idiot probably doesn't have as much experience into Poiman's team as Umina really wants to have.
I don't know. I'll run Beheaded first. Just above Vega at least. I think Beheaded doesn't really care much about specific matchup.
That's true. Beheaded's a good all-rounder. I personally consider him to be kind of an all-ranger too, but he's I think of him as Rio-esque. He doesn't really have bad ranges. He doesn't really have a lot of bad matchups. He's just kind of pretty good at everything. The only thing he doesn't like is being rushed down early, but he has the tools to deal with that, just like everybody else.
I feel like Beheaded just likes range 1 early to land with normals. Range 2 sort of when you flip, you don't have tactics, and then range 3 you do have tactics.
Yeah, Beheaded has an interesting choice. He always has to pick which trait he runs first in every matchup. It's often very situational which one you actually want. Brutality is obviously great because it just gives you extra power all the time, but survival and tactics can both be relevant for helping you actually land those hits.
Tactics especially useful if you flip outside range 1, of course. Especially helping you land that swifted side.
Let's see. Ashlyn says, in this lineup, I'd probably run Vega, then Beheaded, then Umina as the first round pick. Blue agrees. Vega is pretty great into Team Poiman. Vega is kind of an anti-zoner. Specifically, he has a card called Rolling Crystal Flash. which is extremely good against zoners since it becomes faster the farther away you are, and it has close 5, meaning it hits ranges 1 to 6. At range 6,
It's
that
one,
is, yeah, speed 7. It's kind of ridiculous.
it's usually 1 to 6, 3, whatever speed you want.
Yeah, whatever speed you want. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
More like need, I suppose.
Scarlet Terror is also really good. 104, usually speed 6, sometimes 7, depends on if you're in exceed mode or not, or if you have it EX'd. And then he has a card that hits the entire board in the form of Flying Barcelona attack. Although it's very slow, so depending on if you're in range of any of your opponent's threats, it's not at all safe. That said, if you start at one end of the board and the opponent's at the other end of the board, this will deal 9 damage, which is pretty silly.
Then if exceeded, right?
Looks like randomly generated idiot is trying to connect. Hmm. Well, do you want to play a game on the side while we wait?
Man, flipping everyone really sucks for Sydney.
It's fine. He wasn't the actual character.
The actual character is M.
That's true. It's the only one of the three that's one character. The other two are 6. Oh, man.
The things you do when waiting for people. I guess he actually managed to connect now.
He was hoping. Looks like we saw a Zangief surprisingly appear, probably by accident, since that's not on either of these teams. It would be an impressive bait and switch. Lead Beheaded, swap for Zangief in the middle of the game. Not actually legal, but pretty entertaining. Alright, looks like Poiman has already chosen his character.
This could also just be a completely different match. You don't actually know if something like a human being is random.
That's true. It'd be an impressive coincidence, somebody showing up at the exact time the tournament game is scheduled to play a casual match, unrelated.
While knowing the password.
While knowing the password, yes. Successfully guessing the password.
Also successful guessing the character.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess you could be.
Since this is one of the characters on Randomly Generated's team, I'm willing to go off the assumption that this is randomly generated idiots. It could also be a procedurally generated idiot. There's really no way to tell the difference.
Oh, they call themselves random.
Alright, so it looks like we do have Enchantress versus Vega up first. Vega, as some of our spectators have remarked, makes some sense. He's an anti-zoner, which means into Enchantress, he's pretty dangerous. Enchantress leans on mobility and long range, that one.
So there's a lot of buttons in this mod.
Indeed. Maybe it's successful. Maybe I got carried away. Oh well. Alright, we are on to the coin toss. So turn -1. My local meta holds that tails is typically the best thing to call. In this case, the coin will flip heads, however, in strong defiance of this principle. I find that it lands on tails at least 50% of the time. Enchantress going second. Vega takes first. So Enchantress's ability means that 6 is a nice number of cards. She'll often end up with 6 cards in hand. So get used to this.
Yeah, 6 cards allows her to see her entire deck if she only draws with her ability. It's a bit rare, but it can happen.
Indeed, and she can also use some of her card effects to manipulate her hand size in between strikes to make sure that she hits that that denominator the way that she wants to. Things like Spiral Orb, Will Made Real. Oh, is this turn 1 dancer step? That
Yeah, this is step into pretty much anything.
yeah, so there's a pretty intense mix-up between Rolling Crystal Flash and Flying Barcelona. Although I'm not sure Enchantress can do anything about... No, she can trade. So
she can do things about both, yes.
Yeah, she can't cleanly beat Rolling Crystal Flash, but she can trade with it. And she can cleanly beat Flying Barcelona attack since it's only speed 3. So she has to make the call correctly, and also have those options in hand. So one curious thing about Enchantress's ability is that she's often going to end up with little control over her hand size. Oh, well, that gets just obliterated. Vega will have +2 power because of his character ability, which applies to specials and ultras. That is a special, so he hits for 7, stunning the sweep. That was pretty expensive, but a lot of value. Yeah, Focus would have been safe against both options. Would have been able to trade down against the Flying Barcelona or up against Rolling Crystal Flash. Alright, expensive but very good start for Vega. The real problem here is that he's down a Pounce for the rest of the game, which is a very potent defensive tool. but probably worth it to deal that 7 damage off the bat. Enchantress boosting Will Made Real. Draw or discard 2 cards in strike. She chooses to draw, striking with 1 card from hand. Could be a Spiral Lord, could be a Grasp. Something to mess with Vega's positioning.
Really sucks that she had Fire Wave in hand. Call it wrong.
It is the Spiral Orb.
That's the sweep.
Yeah. Doesn't Fire Wave actually answer both? No, never mind. It gets done by Rolling Crystal Flash.
I just barely.
Yeah, just barely. Alright, Speed Plans first. Burns a card at random after the cost is paid with Homing Orb. Spiral Orb is a Force special. That's a mechanic introduced in Season 4, where the cost of the card must be paid on reveal just like a Ultra. And it costs 1 Force instead of Gauge. Just like with Ultras, you could choose to invalidate this if you were to Wild Swing it. Alright, Spiral Orb Tit effect and after effects, Poiman choosing to draw a total of 3 cards, building up to a hand size of 7. Pretty unusual for Enchantress. Vega needs to move 1 farther space. Yep, there we go. Boosting.
Yep. The threat of Rolling Crystal Flash.
Yep. However, it does get into 3 gauge. This could be the Rush Exceed Vega, which is the Red Horizon Vega line, which involves getting to 4 gauge, 3 or 4 gauge, and then exceeding ASAP, and making use of his Exceed ability to crank out massive hits. Alright, so Enchantress plays Magic Shot. That's another Force special. This one has hit at the top of your discard to your gauge, and it's only 2 power, so she won't deal any damage, but after validating it, she'll add that card to her gauge and get an extra gauge off that, putting her at 3 out of the 4 that she needs for her Exceed cost. Much like Vega, she becomes much more terrifying once she's in Exceed mode, so both characters are moving quickly toward their Exceeds. Vega also... Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, it's a really high value Exceed, especially when both fires are down. So the only answer that Enchantress has to Barcelona is moving closer.
Yep, a Speed 4 Flying Barcelona from the corner is practically unbeatable unless she happens to be able to throw the other Magic Shot or potentially a Homing Orb if she happens to have the hand size for it. Huh. Okay. Focus successfully baiting an Assault. She takes a little damage, deals more in return, keeps that hand size steady at 5. So Enchantress is down on life, but she has now reached 4 gauge, meaning she'll be able to afford her Exceed whenever she wants. Timing that Exceed is kind of important because when she exceeds, she shuffles her discard pile, hand, and deck together to create a new deck, meaning it, oh my. Meaning it replaces her reshuffle, or gives her a free shuffle, so to speak. That does not consume her once per game reshuffle. Alright, looks like Vega's boosting Retrieve. It's a 1/4 special boost where he advances 3, and if he moves past the opponent this way, he plays a continuous boost from his discard at no cost. He's putting Light into play, so he's now at the corner, and his specials and ultras will therefore have +3 speed and +3 power, which is pretty crazy. Poiman correcting that discard order. Always appreciated. Vega needs to draw for an turn.
Vega's already in a position to threaten pretty big hits.
Yeah. Vega is threatening immense amounts of power.
Reminding him of the Renaissance Wall.
There we go. Okay, and now Vega preps. Alright, so Enchantress techs that light and is now initiating. 3 cards in hand, so this is not the second Homing Orb, but it could be practically anything, especially normals are pretty solid threats here. Looks like she's trying to get rid of that hand so that she can reload to 6, play out another hand, and then probably reshuffle after that. We have a Critical Strike from Vega. It's probably going to be... Oh, cheeky, cheeky. Alright, Vega is outsped and stunned by the cross. That'll be pretty expensive since he no longer has a gauge to threaten his criticals. A costly mistake.
Still in position to second Flash, at least.
Second Rolling Crystal Flash is still very, very good here. And he still has Flying Barcelona threatened, which only loses to Magic Shot, I believe. Alright, Enchantress boosting Flying Charge. That is 3 force, so Vega reveals 3 cards of his choice, and then Enchantress chooses one of them to discard. Alright, reveals 3, 4, 6. That's Spike, Dive, and Cross.
3 normal, that's pretty...
Enchantress chooses one for him to discard. Personally, I kind of expect it to be the cross, maybe the dive, but not the spike. I personally am not too afraid of spike in this kind of matchup because Vega's usually going to end up at range 1 or range lots.
Yeah, I think cross is the most threatening one of them all.
I think so too.
Not as a boost usually. Just if he goes in, he can just like get back in front.
Exactly. It's useful to let him reposition to the corner once he's put himself out of position. So Vega is... So he's kind of an anti-zoner, but also he... so they need to choose one for him to discard. Yeah, but his payouts tend to put him out of position into close range, which, is often well worth it. But it does mean he needs to have some way in mind to reposition after he lands a payout. He is going to name the spike. Interesting. Alright, Enchantress's hand is empty at the end of her turn, which means that she will reload to 6.
Good
Alright.
break.
Vega prepares again.
He's cutting the spike. So that he doesn't just see the spike.
Mm-hmm.
Really read, but I guess he didn't draw a reading.
Yeah, it looks like there was no reading follow-up, which is surprising. She's going to initiate with Rapid Beam into a Wild Swing block. That is unfortunate. That's a lot of value lost on this very powerful Ultra. It's 9 power coming in, because he gets +1 power for every card in her hands. But Vega will be able to block as much of it as he wants. Meaning, Enchantress is getting basically no real value off of this, and it also means she no longer has the 4 gauge to exceed.
Yeah, these wild swings are pretty costly for Enchantress.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks all of it.
It's also surprising. I think that we still had a Rolling Crystal Flash up, and Rapid Beam is very unsafe there. Wait a second. Vega should have taken 1. Yeah, okay, they got it.
Did.
They got it.
Vega's just fishing for that flash.
Must be.
He's just prepping for like 4 times now.
Mm-hmm. Vega's also kind of in a position of advantage here, since his threats are much scarier than Enchantress's threats at this point. She's striking again. Looks like we have another block and a Shattering Scream. Wow, another Ultra with nominal benefit. This is really not good for Enchantress. She's spending a lot of her current advantage. Vega spins an Ultra for 2 force is going to take no damage off of that Shattering Scream. Well, Enchantress has slowed down her long-term game plan dramatically, hoping for some quick benefits, both of which get negated by those blocks. I would say that Vega now has a distinctive advantage. He's going to boost Claw, giving himself extra range and also automatic criticals. Enchantress forces Vega to move out of the corner or take 5 non-lethal damage using Ground Break. Vega chooses to advance, no surprise. He'll probably back into the corner on his turn, but it at least bought her a little bit of time and helped her drop that hand size so that she can get her next reload. She's 11 cards in deck. She probably wants to see 6 more of them before she... oh, right, she can't exceed anymore.
Can manually reshuffle.
Yeah, I guess she's probably going to use that reshuffle. Vega does spend Splendid Call to retreat. I think that's 3 Ultras down.
Where did the other Splendid Claw?
The other Splendid Claw is still up. It's both Bloody High Claws down now. Alright, Vega does move in. Vega boosting Flying Barcelona attack with Wall Leap to advance as far as possible. Go to the opposite edge of the board. Still threatening that pretty intense Rolling Crystal Flash, which would currently be 6 damage at speed, yes.
This feels like reversed. Vega is the one going from corner to corner. Enchantress is the one chasing him.
Yeah, Enchantress is playing the heavyweight here. She runs into closer range. Range 3 is still pretty terrifying, but if she can win the mix-up here, she can get a lot of value out of it. Since if she stuns Vega, he won't be able to sustain Claw. Alright, she initiates.
I think both Skull Parries are down, so Vega lacks a lot of high-speed mix-ups.
Mm-hmm. And one of our players has disconnected from the Tabletop Simulator room. Well,
specifically the Vega.
Yep. So intimidated by Enchantress, he was banished from existence, going to try to claw his way back at the edges of reality. In the meantime, let's look at
And
what...
the claw's still here.
Leaving the claw behind. Well, that's what Vega does, right? He drops his stuff, and then he has to go back and pick it up. Clumsy goof. I wonder if it's... Yeah. He looks a little cross-eyed in this picture, so maybe that's it. Also, can't help but notice that mask doesn't have holes for him to breathe through. It must get really stuffy in there.
That's how he removes it.
He exhales too sharply, and the mask just falls off. I also can't tell what's keeping it on.
Sheer willpower, or maybe even the hair.
Willpower, or possibly spirit gum. He could stick a bit of spirit gum on his nose, and it would adhere pretty solidly.
I would not know.
I don't know. Mysteries of Vega. Maybe there's a band on it, but I can't see it. Oh no, there it
If
is.
it's there, it's not on the art.
I think it's on Scarlet Terror. Maybe? I think.
We can check.
It looks like it's there. I always like some of the you can find sequences in some of the art. So let me find Ken. All right. So for everyone's consideration, presenting the art for Scarlet Terror. Take a good long look at the Scarlet Terror art. All right, and now presenting the art for Nebash.
If you find it.
Yep. I just realized I have an extra deck over here that I can use. Vega sure doesn't seem like Ken.
So is the game telling us to play Bully High Claw after Pounce?
I mean, it's canonical, right? It's just like how you have to play Jump the Shark into Tidal Whirl if you're playing the Cyrus Minato matchup. The art says to. It also looks to me like you can play Nebash in a Scarlet Terror, but that's only true on front side. In Exceed mode, the Scarlet Terror will actually rip through Nebash.
Just the exit.
Oh, good point. EX Nebash into Exceed Scarlet Terror. Well, I'll put the camera back on that game state so folks can analyze at their leisure. Why don't I pull up Enchantress's discards? She doesn't have a lot left. This will let folks speculate as to what that attack might be.
She has assaults, right?
Yes, she has both assaults actually. It's a reasonably likely play. Vega has extra range. Oh, you know what? She also has a spike left though.
Ooh.
So the easiest way to stuff assaults, in my opinion at least, is to play the Pounce, which will take 2 damage and then deal 8. And force Enchantress to discard a card at random. It doesn't beat it cleanly though. I think the only way to beat it cleanly would be to play Scarlet Terror, but I think both of those are down.
They are.
Yeah, Critical Scarlet Terror is dead. For now.
Yeah, sadly one was discarded right at first.
So Enchantress is running the Spike Assault mix-up. thanks everyone for their patience. We're just going to wait for the player to return. Not much to do about it. This is just like in real life when your opponent simply falls through the floor and disappears. Someone has to go and hunt them down, figure out where they disappeared off to.
Or,
Yep.
you know, bathroom break. But that's a much better explanation.
Yeah, well, I mean, people do occasionally take bathroom breaks, but I find the other is much more common, at least at my local game store. Something to do about not wanting to use a public restroom at a game store, which I can understand. So we have the Assault Spike mix-up being represented. I'm not sure there's anything else here that's really meaningful that Enchantress could throw. I guess if she's feeling cheeky, she could throw the sweep side of that. That feels pretty unsafe against a cornered Vega, though. This is a tournament, Hugon. Oh, and Pounce. Hey, look at that. Called it.
Well, Vega called it.
Yeah, Vega's deck called it. He's going to take 2 and then hit back for 7 and a card. And he stays in the corner.
That's
8.
another wild thing.
8 and a card, excuse me. Vega making good use of those wild swings. Rips a card out of Enchantress' hand. She does have advantage, but this life deficit is going to be hard to make up, especially against an Exceed Vega.
Can't do much in Devil. Pretty special at least. Did he crit? Oh, right, claw.
Yeah, just making sure that they counted it. They said they counted it, so. Oh.
Yeah, I don't think he was at 16 before.
I couldn't remember if it was 16 or 18.
Me neither, but 20? I guess I just went back.
So they were at 18, now they're at 16.
Yeah, that probably makes more sense.
Yeah, that sounds right. Because they were fairly close together on life totals. And then, that happened. Well,
yeah, I remember he took 1 damage from one of the blocks from 19 to 18. So, yeah. A good catch.
Okay, it looks like the assault was to sustain claw. Alright, we have mind control, so revealing a hand with dive and EX grasp. Enchantress will choose one of them for Vega to discard. Looks like it'll be the grasp. And then draws into that reshuffle. Now, as a courtesy to save Vega the time and trouble of counting discards, Enchantress is revealing those last known cards.
Having 2 blocks, missed the shuffle. I think really hurts against Vega.
That is an unfortunate deck composition. Getting blocks earlier would help Enchantress build the gauge she needs to exceed. At this point in the game, I'm not sure it'll help her too much, but at least they might help her stay alive against Vega's huge damage threats. Vega preps. We know his hand, so that makes sense. He could either change cards or prep, but not much in between.
Yeah, the grasp is still a good thing to have. You protect things. It's not a bad hand.
Oh, well, speaking of tech.
That's...
Yeah. That's very...
I don't understand this guy.
It's very clearly tech bait. Maybe Enchantress has something better that she wants to throw out next. Or she's just trying to buy time. Yep. Or she has another light.
Yeah, she has something better.
That's true. Vega striking. Wow. Striking into the +2 speed with a grasp, and Enchantress plays a block. Huh.
This is the intimidation. If Vega knows he can win this. Yeah, you can't spend the grass that just hit us.
Yeah, the grass it hasn't entered gauge yet, so you cannot spend it. Alright, well, Enchantress now initiating at range 3. With
What?
another block? Well, that's gonna get punished real bad. We have a Speed 5, Power 10 Splendid Claw. On hit, it will discard Enchantress's entire hands. And she is going to have to spend some force to, That's 6 armor right now. So she's taking 4.
I think she forgot about the discard.
Yeah, so she does that. Okay. Looks like they're backing up and performing that hit effect in the correct order. Now spending, 2 force for a total of 6 armor. Now taking 4. Now taking none. Alright, they have corrected that game state. Vega needs to pay to sustain, which I'm not sure if he did. Okay, that's that one I just missed. Vega prepping. Goes into that reshuffle. Bottom card of the deck was RCF, I guess. Second copy.
It's
Actually,
still good even if it's bottom deck, you can just retreat it.
mm-hmm. I'm not sure Vega had much of a hand blow. What's happening? Why is that being discarded?
He was going to crit, then I think he remembered Claw.
Well, it's perfectly legal to spin the gauge, so...
Yeah, but he didn't fully spend it. I definitely have to debate this, honestly.
Yeah, it looks like it might have been a late critical declaration, and Poiman is now explaining that it wasn't necessary to do that. So the grass stuns the dive, which means Vega can no longer sustain Claw. It's true, actually, that there is no reason for Vega to spin for crit, but it is legal to do so. So we can't correct a game state, because there is no game state violation. That does confirm that's what happened. And that's 3 damage to Vega. Not having Claw is pretty unfortunate. That was a really nice boost. I still think Vega has the advantage right now.
Yeah, he can just go back, land flash. Not much Enchantress can do about it.
Mm-hmm. So that was, let's see, an invalid wild swing into a dive. No, sorry, that's a boost and then an attack, because that was the Claw. Sorry, I lost track of the game state there for a while. But yeah, boost dropped 4 attacks. And yeah, he's going to back up the Rolling Crystal Flash, threatening the world once again.
And he discarded it. So it's not threatening itself.
Okay, that's true. He's threatening the second copy if he happens to draw into it. So we'll probably see Vega doing a prep or CC soon to try to get some of those threats in hand that he needs out of his deck. At range 5, Enchantress is threatening notably Fire Wave and Homing Orb. Not Homing Orb, excuse me, Magic Shot. There's the Fire Wave. Alright, she'll bop for 2. And Vega draws a card. Yep, there's the prep. Enchantress considering, or at least telegraphing an EX attack. Maybe not actually have one.
I like the fact that Vega retreated with only 2 cards in hand after the draw.
Confidence.
Basically not scared about if he draws the card, he just needs to draw this card.
Enchantress boosts Dark Strafe, moves to any space, and then discards the last card in her hands to get that end-of-turn reload. Barcelona is no longer live, but Scarlet Terror is.
As long as there's a bunch of other things.
As well as several other things. We have a critical strike from Vega. This threatens a lot, but it particularly telegraphs a Pounce or a Scarlet Terror, which would be speed 3 or 7 respectively, dealing 8 or 6 respectively.
I would
Well,
love to see a Sky High Claw anyway. Sky High Claw. I think.
Sky High Claw would be real cheeky. That's a speed 4 and power, I believe, 8s. No, I'm sorry, 9.
9.
Yes, 9. That is basically a spike. It doesn't say ignore guard, but at that much power, you basically ignore guard.
Yeah,
Because
it's just 5.
nothing's going to guard through it. Oh, it is! Holy crap! Well, that happens. Okay, so yeah, that's 9 over 2 is 7 damage, which will stun, although not quite kill. Crushing through that focus, my goodness.
Yeah, that focus is a good call out to Flash, but not much else.
Yeah, well, it also would have worked against Scarlet Terror.
Oh, you're right.
Whew. Well, that puts Vega in a decidedly more comfortable position.
Well, except you probably can use a cycle free now.
Mm-hmm. So I know Ashton said earlier she was hoping to see some good Vega play. I hope you're not disappointed, Ashton. This looks like proper Vega. Enchantress plays an EX Cross to try to get out of there, and is successful in doing so. Hits for 2. Backs up to range 4, wherein she finally has the 4 gauge, meaning she might be able to exceed in the near future and start to get to play her high-powered game. But Vega's threatening to kill her before then. That was a critical strike, meaning he is threatening the Scarlet Terror at speed 6.
Scarlet Terror.
Yeah. Is there anything that beats that? I don't think there is. Well, that doesn't... But she can invalidate that. She could choose not to.
I think you have to block, but she's out of block.
Well, she validated it and accepted her fate. That is
You
game.
can do that. You can do that.
Yep, she takes exactly 1 damage, which is lethal. Alright, that's game 1. Let me put that overlay on the screen.
Yeah, I think there's actually 0 cards she has left of either.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty unfortunate though.
Alright, so the Vega takes the first game, meaning Vega ascends to glory and cannot participate in the rest of the sets.
You're right, he's really an anti-zoner. I don't even know Vega that well, but this showed that
he's a coiled spring. He flies across the board with the greatest of ease. And swings around like a maniac on a flying trapeze. Alright. Why is Enchantress's name so long? Close enough. Alright, they've already made their next decisions. We have Sydney and Serena, Poiman64, and Umina. One of the most difficult characters in the game to master, and one of the more complex characters in the most complex season of 7th Cross. This will be exciting. Making those references. Oh. Whoops, there we go. Alright, so these are both characters who can be zoners. Sydney and Serena do so very, very consistently. Umina gets the choice, but they both have a lot of ranged attacks because Sydney and Serena's specials calculate from Serena.
yeah, Umina especially can be whatever she wants, really.
Mm-hmm. She's a good variety of ranges. Probably her biggest threat is Dark Thoughts, since it hits for a hefty 6 damage, and forces a discard, which lets her steal that card by putting it in her Dreamlands. Oh wow. Turn 1, Umina places Out of Mind in Dreamlands, although I don't think we'd even mulliganed yet. Maybe that was a mull 0 on both sides. So this is...
Umina's side.
This is interesting. A stun immune Out of Mind. So cards in Dreamlands have stun immunity when Umina strikes with them or with another copy of that card. In return, though, if you initiate with it, it's basically face up. At least unless you have the transformation that makes them face down. So Out of Mind stun immunity isn't particularly valuable, except for building a ton of gauge very quickly. Alright, Sydney initiates. There's a lot of threats here. Out of Mind doesn't beat any of them, so Umina needs to either play a projectile, a defensive move, or an evasive move. The usual threat in turn 1 is Spore Burst. It's Blossom Haze, which will win the speed tie against that dive, stun for 2 damage after armor, and give Sydney one of his transformations. Probably should reset that life. Okay, there we go.
Also gains 30 life with that. Pretty high value.
That was quite good. Alright, Enthralling Toxins is one of the more utilitarian transformations here. At the end of each strike, if Sydney or Serena spends any gauge before or during the strike, and we're not stunned, they may push or pull 1. Now, that might seem strange, because it seems to only apply to ultras, but they do gain other abilities later, which let them... Oh, that's funny. Alright, so Umina's faster... Sorry, which let them spin gauge on other effects, is what I was going to say. Umina's faster, hits for 4, and then chooses to advance. Hollow Space has attacks at range 1 do not hit you, so she advances to range 1 from Serena, so Serena will miss with that Spore Burst.
And so it's Sydney. Notably, that's one of the transforms that lets Sydney spin dodge on any special, instead of just ultras.
Yep, that's a great example right there. Oh, we have a stun immune face up Out of Mind, which will lose to that grasp. That was very, very risky by Umina. She's not stunned, but she is going to miss, because grasp pushes her back out of range. She takes 3 damage. Passes the turn to Sydney. Sydney initiates again. I guess this is why we didn't see it eat Mulligan, unless I missed it. Pretty good hands here. Spike Assault, classic counter. Umina comes in first, hits for 4. Umina is initiating. This is pretty interesting. Feels like a sweep. It's a focus. Well, that will still cleanly win against the Pea Shooter, which cannot hit, as it is range 3 from Serena.
Even if it hits, it wouldn't do anything. But
that's true. Against a focus, it is essentially useless.
it's a god canner. Not sure what Out of Mind was trying to do there. Feels really unsafe in face up.
Yeah, looking for a cheeky early gauge hit, I guess. Or gauge injection. Sydney Boost Light, Umina strikes into it. With a grasp, which will outspeed the defensive dive. Interesting.
Dive?
The defensive dive makes sense to me, because with +2 speed, initiating into that telegraphs that you're going to play something slow and defensive that doesn't care about speed. So dive can jump over a defensive sweep, or sorry, an aggressive sweep here. It does get stuffed by that grasp though. Cheeky call out, very effective.
Also misses. And I think
It would miss, but it would put Sydney at range, which is useful since he generally does not want to be in melee.
this was the same person that grasped when light was out and Poiman was front of the block, right?
Yes. So the grasp into the light, 2 games in a row, has worked both times.
Yeah,
Pretty
definitely in
unusual.
Poiman's brain, just reading him left and right.
Alright, Sydney initiates the dive at range 3, is effective, and moves him onto the plant, which is actually very good right now. While on Serena, Sydney's exceed cost is reduced by 3, meaning right now it would have a cost of 4, and since he has a transformation, it is further reduced to 2. This will give him that last gauge to be able to afford it, meaning as long as he doesn't get repositioned, he can exceed when necessary. That's going to be very important because when his life is 10 or less, he can exceed to gain 5 life because, well, Serena eats Sydney. And that helps a lot in evening out this life delta. What was that?
That's Umina succeed.
Oh, right. So that's very surprising, though. At start of turn, she looks at the top of her... I didn't even realize she exceeded, sorry. Top of her deck. Either puts it in Dreamlands or discards it. Chooses to discard it, despite not having a card in Dreamlands already. There's really no reason not to put a card in Dreamlands when you have the option to. Sydney initiates with focus, takes 1 damage, and Umina retreats to safety.
Honestly, this card here feels like Mantom's more used to emerging style of Exceed. Oh, it's gonna happen every turn.
They skipped that start of turn effects on Umina, so they're performing it belatedly. That card cannot enter Dreamlands, they're forced to discard it. So then Sydney played backstep to retreat.
So now it's Umina's turn again, and she looks at top of card again.
She'll need to do a start of turn, but I'm not sure if Sydney drew for the end of his turn. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Alright, there we go. So Dark Thoughts is going into Dreamlands. So in Exceed mode, her Dreamlands is totally different. Instead of being able to strike with it and getting stun immunity, she can seal the card in Dreamlands when she sets her attack to append those triggers to her attack triggers, meaning she can add the hit effect on Dark Thoughts to whatever she sets. That said, at this range, Umina has nothing that works. The best she could hope to do is potentially dodge something, but not much dodges here. Oh. Sydney playing Choking Thorns not to hit, but just to get a free gauge with that after effect. Umina plays Block and also gets a free gauge out of it. Choking Thorns is normally considered a pretty high value attack, but it can have trouble landing against someone who's evasive as Umina.
This feels really interesting to me. The Anont Kadaf would be really good, especially at this range. You could just block everything.
Alright, so she gains the Dark Thoughts to hand after replacing it with the Hollow Space. In normal mode, when Umina replaces a card in Dreamlands, the old one is discarded, but in Exceed mode, the old one goes to hand. So she now has that after effect on top of she can put that after effect on top of anything else that she plays. Notably, though, the attacks at range 1 do not hit you is not a before hit or after trigger, so it would not be added to the card if she chose to seal it. Once again, Umina's at a range where she can't really do anything.
I'd love to see a dive Hollow Space. Just try to close it. Wow. Did she prep?
Yeah, she may have prepped. Okay. Sydney initiates, which is actually going to win the speed tie on Unknown Kadath, hitting for 1 damage and stunning. A rare, rare instance of Pea Shooter actually winning a strike.
And of Kadaf losing one.
And of Kadath losing one, no kidding. Normally that card is unbelievably safe. It has a before effect, which steals the opponent's attack to her Dreamlands and then ends the strike instantly, meaning nothing slower can do anything.
It also hits at all ranges. Hit it with cards.
It doesn't need to hit to do things, so it's just ridiculously reliable. Alright, she's looking at her start of turn. Umina boosts defend.
What do you think her game plan is here?
I'm not sure. She needs to move in a bit closer in order to threaten her projectiles. Sydney parries out the Dark Thoughts, speaking of projectiles, and draws for end of turn. Yeah, I'm not sure what Umina's plan is. But if she can get an assault or a dive to stick in that Dreamlands, she can potentially fuse something into an attack that'll actually land at this range. Right now, being at range 7 is not really going to help her much. I'm surprised that she's boosting for speed.
Yeah, I'm really surprised about everything you're doing right now. I felt like after she flipped, she just lost.
Yeah, I think that she had a significant lead, and she's been steadily losing it. Oh, wow. Focus covering that Verdant Slaughter. Very surprising. I would not have read the Slaughter here. But it does make sense. Sydney is completely safe from reprisal, and Verdant Slaughter is going to hit practically anything. The Focus calls it out because it cannot be moved, which prevents Verdant Slaughter from pulling Umina into range. Well, resolve those out of order, which is going to cost Umina a card. Yep, so she should have drawn the Shadow Chorus and then performed her start of turn effect on the next card. Instead, she performed her start effect on the Shadow Chorus, which forced it to be discarded, drew the next card, and then drew for end of turn. It is now Sydney's turn.
It's pretty rare to see that transform out, especially EX. That card is so good.
Yes, that is an excellent card, but with that loss of gauge from exceeding as early and with no transformations, as well as not landing any hits afterwards, I can see wanting to get it transformed if she's planning on reshuffling in the near future. It also potentially allows her to start veiling her threats, since we haven't seen... I don't think we've seen any copies of... No, I'm mistaken. We have seen one copy of Assault. But if she can seal the other... or if she can Dreamlands the other Assault, she can potentially create an attack that'll hit.
Assault or dive?
Chooses to... Again, discard that instead of using her... Wait, what? Yep, Sydney tried to skip Umina's turn there.
Did we enter a pocket dimension after we exceeded?
I mean, evidently. She tore open a hole into a world in which she's not allowed to take turns, evidently. Or win strikes, from the look of things.
Move?
Or move.
Oh.
Yeah, she feels, she... Oh, well, there's the Assault. Oh, my goodness!
See, this is why you seal... Not even seal, I guess. This is how you use Dreamland.
Oh, wow. Well, since she didn't use Dreamland, she's just going to step forward and have no additional movements, meaning she takes 6 damage from that Choking Thorns, which also gains an extra gauge on top of that. Sydney initiates.
Feels like a case that he's been trying to do this entire game.
Yeah, this... Oh, it decides to prepare instead, actually. Umina remembers her start of turn effects, puts that in her Dreamlands, returning the other card to hands. It is now face down, thanks to her transformation, the Dreamer Awakens. Or sorry, the Sleeper Awakes. The Dreamer Awakened is the name of her Exceed ability. It is now Umina's turn.
With a surprisingly not known hand, actually, because of that one face down card.
Yep.
It will remind me, Poiman to not take any turns.
I feel like I should just grab a turn tracker and stick it over here and update it as the game progresses.
Yeah, throw it on top of Umina's deck every time.
Mm-hmm. Sweep. Okay. Oh, so Umina was known to have the hollow space in hand, so Sydney was trying to bait it, forcing her to either retreat or advance into damage. Not successful in doing so. Alright, Umina chooses to discard that. And is striking. Oh, but evidently chose to seal that.
Is that actually a seal? Oh yeah, it is seal.
Okay, so this hit effect will discard 2 cards from Sydney's hands. Order of Umina's choice. One of them will optionally go to Dreamlands, the other will simply be discarded. They're both discarded at random.
You have no idea to actually know the order.
Yes, we'll just have to see what the players do.
That's the first win that I have landed in a while.
Okay, burns a Spore Burst. Burns an Assault and decides to keep it. Alright.
Yeah, I also think that's the correct ordering. That way you know more about the opponent's hand.
Whoops.
Can you move that back?
Yeah, that's just unfortunate placement of the bag.
I don't know why they're searching top card anyway.
They might just not be familiar with Tabletop Simulator in this regard.
Hopefully they don't crash on searching for the...
There we go. Alright, well that was a pretty valuable hit by Umina, I would say. Even though Sydney will get to block it, taking potentially no damage, it took out both the other Spore Burst, which is a very useful card, and an Assault, which now in her Dreamland lets her fuse that with something else to make an attack that'll actually hit. So I'd call that pretty high value.
Yeah, especially when Cold Dreamlands is down, one Dark Thoughts is down.
Mm-hmm.
You need this.
Yep, she adds that to gauge, which I think is definitely correct, since she has chosen to transform the Sleeper Awakes this game. The transformation on Dark Thoughts doesn't actually do much of anything for her. Sydney prepares.
It does literally nothing, right?
Wait. Yeah, it does literally nothing, unless she happens to reveal a card from Dreamlands to resolve a card effect, and then it stays revealed. It's the only case in which it matters. Alright, looks like she's going to take a move action. Not sure what happened to that block. Might just be on my screen. No, okay, he just forgot to add it.
That's on mine.
Did he forget about taking the damage?
No, he discarded an Ultra.
Okay. Wait, what?
Or not. He. I guess I'll have to ask.
Oh.
Man, this seems confusing. Did you just tell us that he had that case in hand? I'm not sure taking the 4 here is very...
Regardless of whether it can be confirmed, it is multiple turns after the fact. He did not spin Force to block, so he takes the damage.
He spent the Ultra.
He said it was for a change cards 2 action.
Right, so you can say it's a change card 0 action. I think that would be the more fair way to... Because, I mean, taking the 4 damage here is pretty deadly.
Yeah. It was
how I would rule it.
A clear mistake. Alright, it looks like we have a Sealed Assault for Out of Minds. Interesting. Okay, so this is going to be good for Sydney, since Umina will only deal 1 damage. She adds her hand to her gauge and draws 3 cards due to that hit effect. She does gain advantage, but Sydney will be able to trade up substantially and then push her away from him, which is something he definitely wants. He also finally gets Ligand Reinforcement. Okay, so now he has an ability to actually spin gauge when he sets his attack, which will turn Enthralling Toxins on.
Something that hasn't actually been used yet.
Yep, and Umina finally remembers her start of turn effect. Not for the first time, sorry, I shouldn't say finally. And prepares, it's back to Sydney now. Life is 12 to 9. Sydney actually definitely has an advantage now, since he can choose to exceed whenever he wants and gain 5 life.
Interesting, he did not transform Out of Mind.
Yeah, that feels like it would have been useful here. Umina Tex belatedly remembers her start of turn effects. Draws for end of turn at some point.
Boy, this is going to be a mess.
Looks like she's trying to draw for end of turn.
Who isn't confused? Okay, everyone raise hands. Raise your hand if you're not confused here.
I saw Sydney boost light, draw for end of turn. Umina boost check, and then not draw for end of turn. Okay, there we go. So now, Umina has revealed Shadow Course, which will require the card in Dreamlands to be revealed. It is a hollow space, which will not be able to stun, since Verdant Slaughter has exactly 4 guard. However, it will be able to dodge, since advancing 3 means Verdant Slaughter will only pull at 1 space into range 1 from Serena, where it misses thanks to Hollow Space's effect. Wait, what?
It pulls 2 because it has inherent pull 1.
Oh, you're right. It pulls 1 and then it repeats for each card engaged, meaning, belay that, Umina takes 8 damage. Ow.
She could have retreated. I think she just...
Yeah, she should have retreated to not get pulled into the 8 damage, but so it goes. Okay, so let's see. I believe that was Sydney's initiation, so it's now Amina's turn.
Probably. Let's just say this is a way to compensate for the block.
Yeah, fair, actually. Alright, it's declining that start of turn effect, or rather, choosing not to put the card in Dreamlands. Umina has 10 cards in deck, Sydney and Serena have 9. I think they both reshuffled, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
I don't think Sydney had reshuffled.
Maybe not.
Pretty wrong, but...
Alright, looks like she's going to spend,
What?
boost assaults to retreat 4 spaces. That's surprising.
She's on a clock here.
Yeah, she's kind of clocking herself out, and she doesn't really have the time to...
Now I'll put this back in that one.
Yeah, and then shuffle it, and then...
And then this hurts.
Choosing not to keep it, yeah. And then preps, alright. Alright, so if Umina has reshuffled and Sydney hasn't, then the game is essentially over in Sydney's favor.
This game feels rigged. It feels like they've played already, and they need to play. They want to play it again too. So RandomGen doesn't want to win this game. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Honestly, either that or just lack of experience with Exceeded Umina. She's
That seems likely. Umina is one of the more complex characters in the game, and we're seeing a lot of missed triggers and missed opportunities. So maybe the player doesn't have that much familiarity with Umina or Exceed Umina.
Yeah, Exceed Umina is pretty rare, so it's understandable.
This is true, and they exceeded actually very early in the game.
How much does it cost anyway?
It's only 4 gauge. So Umina can afford her Exceed earlier than most characters, especially most 7th Cross characters, since with only 2 transformations it becomes free. However, she exceeded with no transformations, which was a heavy resource toll, if I recall correctly at least, and then afterwards she transformed Call of the Dreamlands. That means she's essentially been burning a card every turn. Whoa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, change card 6?
What is happening?
So that looks like a change card 6.
That kills her.
If she's already reshuffled, it sure does. I have not been tracking that reshuffle. Oh no, she's moving! Okay, well, that makes more sense than the alternative. Wait, where did that transform go? Okay,
Yeah,
they got it.
Collapse on it.
Alright, they got it.
Did she just realize what she had done, or she just put everything from hand? It has 7 cards engaged.
Holy cow, you're right. That... What in the world?
I mean, accumulating her hands, you can probably kill Sydney.
Oh, it looks like you do seed. So Sydney ran onto...
Also just me?
Ran onto Serena.
Probably just looking to exceed.
Yeah.
So Umina does whatever she needs to do to kill him.
Yeah, he's only at 5 life, so it makes sense. And Umina is now initiating. So there is a lethal threat here. Probably more than one. Look at those discards. Yeah, she's got at least 1 spike and at least 1... She does not have a sweep.
What she did discard with her start of turn?
She discarded a Dark Thoughts.
Okay, so this is cross.
So the lethal threats are Out of Mind and Spike, I believe.
Oh, this is probably out of mind then.
So those are the two things I think Sydney should cover. What?
What is it?
It's Unknown Kadath. So she spends 3 gauge and steals Blossom Haze into Dreamlands, which puts Hollow Space in hand. It was Blossom Haze in response, by the way.
Yeah, I'm looking
Yeah.
to see now.
Okay. Well, that she survives. Then Unknown Kadath adds itself to her gauge. Alright, so Serena eats Sydney, gains 5 life. This makes perfect sense to me. Need that life buffer to be sure you're safe against anything particularly crazy. Umina start of turn effects.
Umina has around 3 times? Unless if she does anything that isn't striking.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, she can still strike with things. Uh-oh, now I disconnected.
Oh.
Alright, well, I'll try to get back in.
I guess the end of this game will always be a mystery.
It looks like you just got back in when I disconnected.
And then I immediately disconnected as well.
Oh, maybe it was everybody then.
I'm actually gonna say let's hope so we can correct their mistakes.
Let's see if we can get back in, yeah. I do not see the room. Oh, they're messaging me up again. Okay, it looks like the host's TTS crashed. He's going to try to pull it back up. Yeah, so reminder to everybody watching, this week has been pretty heavy on Steam servers, especially with Tabletop Simulator. So if you're in a tournament game, it's prudent to have your autosaves, or at least to make a manual save every, couple strikes or couple turns, however you want to do it. Just make sure that you're at points where you can recover the game state. I'm going to start pulling up the video of this stream on the side so that I can go back through game state in case their save doesn't catch them up. Alright, I think I see him.
I see the server.
Okay. I think the password might have changed. Just a sec.
Really? Why would you? Yeah, you got me there.
Oh no, I just mistyped it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty evil password, to be honest. So it seems like we're a bunch of them behind.
Okay. Well, we can help correct that.
Okay, this feels like the time before Poison Slaughter.
Okay.
So then there's backstab and move 6. Do you remember who striked in the Verdant Slaughter League?
I'm sorry?
And got it. Who striked?
Who initiated? Let's see. On the Verdant Slaughter. Let me go back to it. I literally have the video up on the side. I'm just checking.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you.
Okay, Verdant Slaughter was initiated by Sydney.
I'm just helping them go back instead.
Yeah, I timed out again. Yeah, so Verdant Slaughter was initiated by Sydney. Umina then revealed the Hall Space and Dreamlands, advanced 3, got pulled back onto Sydney and Serena.
Ouch. We'd just be playing the since Umina shuffle a deck, not only can this can be easily resolved, but we're doing the best we can.
Alright, well, we do the best we can with what we got.
It was fine. I was just seeing your Kadaf being discarded with Umina action, but she had 2 of those, so. And she's doing it. So it's all fine. So when you come back, you'll see correct game state. Yeah, even discarded the same dark thoughts, yeah. So did it do anything after I received and before the crash?
Okay. So let's see.
What I see is Sydney flip, Umina prep, and now I think it's Sydney's turn.
Okay. Alright, well, at least we're back in a workable state. It's not ideal, but, you know.
It's not that bad.
We do the best we can. Alright, so we are back.
Umina could have slightly different cards, but
Yeah. Yeah, the game is probably
doesn't
in...
fundamentally change much. I mean,
Yeah, the game is approximately in the same state. Alright. So whose turn is it?
I think it's Sydney's.
Okay.
Serena. Maybe
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. I need to change the overlay. It's not Sydney anymore.
Yeah, Sydney died, so.
Yep. Alright. Serena initiating?
No gauge pen.
Yep.
Notably, Umina has Blossom Haze on Dreamland, so she can get a bunch of.
Yep. Looks like she's
armor.
gonna play... Okay, the Dreamer plays Call of the Dreamlands. Into Venom Lash. Outspeeds it. Okay. Reveals a hand with...
With a bunch of probably two specials.
Yeah, but she hasn't finished revealing her hand yet. There we go. Okay, so that was +2 and +2, so +4, so a total of 6 damage. Pretty strong, actually. Pretty strong. Alright, so that was Serena's initiation, which means it's now the Dreamer's turn. So Dreamer's start of turn effect.
And now she has to draw and strike for the rest of the game.
Yep. Since if she ever draws another card, she'll die. Choosing to discard it. That makes sense. If she picks it up, then it'll add the Blossom Haze back to Serena's hands, which is not desired. She also doesn't want that effect on focus. So
what was in her hand?
let's see. It was Hollow Space, which doesn't hit, Dive, which doesn't hit, and a third card, which I don't remember, but it's probably what's being played.
That's exactly what I remember.
It's out of mind. Okay.
Okay.
Alright, it is threatening lethal, exact lethal, because Blossom Haze is in Dreamlands and it has a printed power of 3.
But he can armor to it, and when... Oh, and he...
I think they might just be discussing that the game is over, since Serena can respond with Cross and just beat it.
Oh. Yeah, you could just...
Or Serena
Yeah,
is conceding for some reason. I don't know what's happening. I'm just gonna ask.
Someone won, and someone lost. And
Yes.
he's defeated him.
Something appears to have happened. I will get back to y'all on what that was. What? Well, the opponent disconnected, I guess.
Why did they group all their gauge?
It's a good question. It's a great question, actually. Where?
Instead of answering my question, you can just drag the card. Give me a second.
Folks, you know about as much as we do about what's going on.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Didn't she? Yeah, I thought she already reshuffled.
You can you double check?
Yeah, I'm gonna double check.
There's no way Umina went exceed side, discarded all those cards, and hasn't reshuffled to this far.
Yeah, let me go back through it.
And we had seen the first out of mine, turn 1, and then 1 was discarded, and then 1 was displayed. So that's 3 of them. Second has recursion that hasn't actually used it. And we have seen 3 unknown cut off. So 1 was stuffed by Pea Shooter, another was discarded to move 6, and the other was played effectively.
Yep.
And other void removed.
Yes, Umina definitely reshuffled. Yes. Okay, well. Yes, that was a fair win.
I'm not sure it would have been fair if we moved on. I don't know. I guess it would, yeah. I mean, it's just a confusing game.
Yes. Oh dear.
I hope we get to see Umina again, honestly. That was fun.
Uh-oh. Oh no, I think
Yeah.
he's just reloading. Okay, that's fine.
Reloading while RandomGen joins. Hopefully it doesn't just be serious.
I mean, it might, but we gotta do something to fix the board. I'm not sure how he did that, but, you know, it's fine.
You can lock the board.
It is supposed to be impossible to unlock the board, based on the way that I coded it.
Then loading the board, loading safe state.
Oh, when he reloaded the
Okay.
save. Yeah, that's right, because it doesn't do everything right when you reload from a
Yeah.
save.
Skips and the play.
Yeah, they do. Okay, that makes sense then.
It's a pretty cool anti-unlock thing you put in the mod thing.
Yeah, like now you shouldn't be able to unlock the boards because this was a fresh load. Yeah, and you can't. Okay. Well then, on to game 3.
You can't because you're not promoted, but
You don't need to be promoted to unlock stuff. You just need to be able to. You need to be promoted to copy paste stuff.
the host needs to let unpromoted people unlock stuff. So
Yeah.
it depends on the host.
That's fair.
Yeah, stuff. Yay.
Yeah. All right. Well then, so game 3. I'll move that splash screen back real quick. So let's see. City and Serena are dead, and so is Vega. They have ascended to glory. So Enchantress fight versus Beheaded Umina. I'm hoping to see probably a Beheaded against Fight or Enchantress. I'm not sure. Oh, and they've already chosen. Okay, well, that was quick. All right, game 3, Beheaded versus Enchantress. We have not seen something like a human being, aka randomly generated idiots, Beheaded yet. We have seen Poiman64's Enchantress. Seemed like a fairly competent Enchantress to me. So, yeah, hopefully this will be an interesting match. Beheaded is an all-rounder who has pretty mediocre to subpar stats and attack shapes to begin the game, but quickly ramps up to become extremely threatening. And Enchantress y'all have already seen.
Enchantress went back. I don't think she got to do a lot of what she usually does against Vega.
I would agree.
Actually.
Yeah, Enchantress had to try and rush in, which is always weird. Alright.
This matchup will be more conventional.
Most likely. Okay.
Still disappointed that we're not going to see Umina again. That was pretty chaotically fun.
That was a very interesting Umina game. At least this one should be easier to track. Alright, Beheaded taking first. So Beheaded does not begin with a lot of options, but he does have a mix-up. It's the move-don't-move mix-up. So he can play from starting positions Infantry Bow at speed 4, which does not move him, or Dive Attack at speed 5, which does move him, or of course Assault at speed 4, which moves him. Wait, sorry, Assault. Dive. At speed 4, which moves him in. Enchantress, just as before, has access to Magic Shot at speed 5, Fire Move at speed 4, a number of melee trading moves among the normals, so, you know, focus, sweep, and then spiral orb, or block, or cross to be evasive. Beheaded initiating strike. Alright.
Did you mention EX Homing Orb?
EX Homing Orb would be the classiest answer, if it's available. Alright, marksman bow, sorry, infantry bow. I've said this before. There are two very similar items from the source material, Dead Cells, that are named different things, because they're both bows. So, infantry bow is going to miss. As Enchantress crosses out, she's now at range 5. It looks like she's going to Wild Swing, probably hoping for that Fire Wave.
Only one card hits here. Usually her Wild Swing are much better on range 1.
Mm-hmm.
She can just validate her long range.
Fire Wave. That's really funny, because no matter what she does, she's going to get hit by that focus.
Is that Wild Swing?
Yep. So
that is pretty epic.
that's really terrible for Enchantress. She spends up to 3 force to close that many spaces, and then she has after advance X, where X is the number of cards in her hand, which means no matter what she does, she'll end up in range of focus. She gets bopped for 4, and Beheaded draws a card. Beheaded draws a card.
Beheaded does it. I can't take these rule clarifications seriously anymore, not after that game.
Yep, focus does have after draw card on it. It's kind of useful. Alright, Enchantress spawning from hand, probably just gonna be a spiral wave, something like that, a sweep. Yep, sweep is good. Alright, Twin Daggers, it is the turn after a strike, so Twin Daggers hits for 5, but it does not stun that sweep, so sweep will hit back for 6. Trading almost even, however, Beheaded loses a card, but gains the gauge from the hit, which is extremely valuable, since it means he is now able to qualify for that Exceed mode. Drops a copy of Phaser, that's unfortunate. Phaser is a powerful anti-zoning tool, which also does a lot of damage, not by itself, but because it sets up a follow-up with +4 power.
Offensively, it can also be used as a Hemlong 1, advantage, boost, everything.
We have a Wild Swing Spike, which obviously won't do any good. Spiral Orb needs to be validated, that is a force special. Y'all may have noticed that Enchantress has a lot of force specials. That's because of how she manipulates resources. It helps her burn out that hand to get to her reloads. She's going to hit draw 2 after draw 1. And Beheaded wastes no time in exceeding, as well he should, choosing which of those 3 traits he wants to start with. Chooses Survival for +1 armor, +2 guard on specials and ultras only. It does, of course, cost him the gauge, needs to draw for end of turn.
Surprised he didn't just do tactics.
Yeah, I could see it going either way. He has a decent array of ranged options, and Survival means that he can more reliably trade with Enchantress even if she's faster.
Notably, Magic Shot just do pretty much any special.
We have Will Made Real, so Enchantress will draw 2 cards and strike. Looks like she has an EX attack. Beheaded's response?
Nope.
Beheaded will lose that speed tie. He has +1 power, +1 speed because of his Exceed ability, which gives him +1/+1 on the next strike. But he loses the speed tie against the EX assaults, meaning he will take 5 damage and get stunned and then flip back. 4 damage, excuse me, 4 damage.
That's a pretty interesting gift, honestly. How is it calling out?
Not too sure. I think in general, well, the stat line of 1 to 3, 4, 6 with 1, 2 on defenses sounds really great against anything that isn't an EX attack. So it may have just been played on the basis of general heuristics.
That definitely falls short at range 1 and EX.
Yeah, specifically because it was an EX attack, I think it was an unfortunate play. Alright, that looks like ground break. Yep. The opponent may advance retreat up to 2. If they move fewer than 2, they take 5 damage. So basically, Enchantress is forcing Beheaded out of melee.
That's good for him. I'm confused.
Well, that depends on what her hand shape is. If she doesn't have many normals or much in the way of melee attacks, it may be better for her to do this than to save that homing orb for later.
Felt like a very expensive move 1.
Yeah, practically.
Because you're Enchantress, so everything's expensive.
Beheaded prepares. Yeah, normally I would have expected Enchantress to just dump her hand to retreat there, but it looks like she's trying to make very strong use of every hand that she draws. She's initiating with 1 card. What? Okay, Enchantress dives over the block into the corner, cornering herself, and leaving herself with 2 cards in hand at range 2 with no space to advance or retreat, meaning she's going to have a hard time getting rid of those last 2 cards. What?
You know, maybe Enchantress is carry.
Okay.
Before
Beheaded thought that the dive hit and was spending force for armor, but in fact there's no need for that because the dive did not hit.
You can't even do that. So.
Nope. You do not have the option to spin for armor. Spartan Sandals is push 2, then if the opponent's at the edge of the arena, take another action. It's actually pretty surprising. If Beheaded doesn't follow up with a strike here, I would say that actually was good for him. Or good for Enchantress. Excuse me. He does strike, so we had a follow-up ready. What do we got? Oh, a sweep. Well, the Fire Wave, if Enchantress validates that Fire Wave, it will stuff the sweep, dealing 4 damage and then pushing 2, meaning sweep cannot counterattack. Alright. Enchantress validates. What?
Does anyone know how to do anything?
The answer to that is no. Yeah, so they thought that sweep at speed 2 was faster than Fire Wave at speed 4. It is not. So Fire Wave hits first and pushes. That means it is now Enchantress's turn with that last card in hands, which was inadvertently revealed due to inaccurate strike resolution. Ooh, do we see an exceed? Yes, that is an exceed action. Alright. Whew. Enchantress can now breathe a lot easier. She's going to be able to choose her hand size, essentially, for the rest of the game. So when you exceed, shuffle your hand and discard pile into your deck. Then instead of drawing at the end of your turn, you may draw until you have 7 and then discard down to 7. So it replaces her normal end of turn draw with a full reload whenever she wants it. Now, note that this is different from the normal ability, which could let her reload to 6 if her hand was empty at the end of a strike. She no longer has that effect, so at the end of a strike, if her hand is empty, she will simply be out of cards. That said, on any non-strike turn, she can just reload 7. She's initiating. She has 6 cards in hand, so Homing Orb is not a threat. Magic Shot and Fire Wave are both live here. Beheaded prepped on his turn, for those who missed it.
It really sucks for Beheaded.
Mm-hmm.
I think nothing here beats really either option.
I would be willing to play Phaser here, just for the follow-up, even though it trades with both of those things. Okay. Magic Shot is validated, but will deal no damage. The card that was spent on the force will go to gauge due to the hit effect on Magic Shot. And Beheaded draws 1 card due to their after effects. And then preps on the following turn to Alright, so Enchantress initiates again at range 5, this time with the Fire Wave, validates that, 4 power and a push 2. This time Beheaded is hit, so he may spend force and does so to take no damage, discarding a dive to generate 1 force from hands. Alright, Beheaded's turn, he's at extreme range from Enchantress. This is a very dangerous place to be, but he decides to spin the gauge to exceed anyway, choosing another trait, probably going to be, yep, there's Brutality.
What?
So Tactics is more useful, but Okay. But Brutality will, if he can close back in, let him even up the life totals. So he is likely feeling nervous about the life disparity right now and wants the extra damage in order to try to close out the game. Or at least bring things more even. Enchantress boosts light and then reloads at end of turn. This means Rapid Beam is a enormous threat, potentially dealing up to 10 damage at speed 6. If she has it, she's going to use it, is my call.
She's using it and nothing else hits at this range.
Shattering Scream actually does hit.
Oh. I really like that thing.
Yeah, it's range 1 to 7. Either way, I'm confident that's one of those 2 plays. Beheaded can do nothing against either of them. Well, actually...
He blocks it down.
Okay.
He can assault.
EX Cross would have beaten the Shattering Scream. Well, the light's in play, meaning Rapid Beam is speed 6, so...
I don't need the X.
EX Assault would still not have dodged, though. Because it would put him at range 5. Alright, well, that's 10 damage. 10 damage Rapid Beam.
And Beheaded slips, probably don't forget, just lighting charge.
Yep.
I guess one is reminding him. And There goes Beheaded and ended, honestly. Completely gone.
Mm. Oh, Mad in chat says EX Dive Attack. Yeah, EX Dive Attack would actually have dodged the Rapid Beam there if it was available, because of that +1 speed from Beheaded Succeed ability. Beheaded boost
Oh, I
run,
forgot
moving
about
in.
Light.
Yeah, Light was the huge factor there. And it's what made the Rapid Beam threat so much more important than the Shattering Scream threat. Enchantress has an EX attack. Oof. Threatening lethal in a couple different ways here. Although I think we've already seen some of her main threats. So I think Dive is the... Oh, Homing Orb. You're right. Alright, that is 4 power over 3 armor. It will not kill. It'll deal 1 damage and push or pull 1. Probably going to push so he doesn't get... So that Enchantress doesn't get splatted by the counterattack. Deals 1, and then Beheaded closes 2 and misses. Well, survival living up to its name. However, with a 20 life deficit, Beheaded probably can't bring this back. I have seen stranger things happen, but only once or twice. Boost lights. Enchantress techs it, and then chooses whether or not to reload. Draws only 1 card at the end of the turn.
Really?
So with both Homing Orbs down, the only reason to stay on low hand size is if Enchantress wants to play a Fire Wave or boost a critical attack in the near future. Beheaded boosts Tornado, +1 speed now advance 1, draws for a turn. Enchantress initiates at range 2, 1 card from hands. Dive attack over Flying Charge, that'll stun. Dive attack hits for 5 thanks to Brutality, which stuns Enchantress, keeping him alive 1 more turn.
Pretty interesting. Melee dive attack.
So things like that are why Brutality is nice. That is both copies of Dive Attack on, though. It is now Beheaded's turn. He's at range 1.
And I guess Survival made him live.
Yep. So both of those choices have been borne out this game. Beheaded backing up to range 5? That threatens only one thing, which is Marksman Bow. Infantry Bow. Gosh darn it.
Same thing.
Yeah. Beheaded needs to remember to draw for end of turn.
Bow?
Okay. Almost certainly parrying the bow. Oh, the bow is not in hands. It was a bluff or buying time. Hand has Assault Shield, Wrenching Whip, Twin Daggers, Wave of Denial, and Grasp.
Yeah, we've seen this before with him playing Vega, just moving into range and not having options at that range.
Well, with the deck that thin, he could be counting on drawing it before or by the time he needs it. There is a bow left, and with only 5 cards, he has a chance of wild swinging it if he doesn't draw it. So because of that parry, Enchantress now needs to either draw 1 or, a lot more than 1 for end of turn. I think she might have already drawn 1, actually. I think she did.
I think she did.
Yeah, okay. So still staying on low hand size, which is kind of an interesting choice in this position. Beheaded preps, obviously looking to draw into that infantry bow, excuse me. Let's see. What can she do against the bow? Well, if she has Magic Shot, it's still what? Oh, prepare and then...
prep.
Yeah, that's an Enchantress prep, where you draw 1 and then you draw for up to 7. Or up until you have 7, I should say. Oh.
I don't think that's legal.
If Enchantress drew 0 cards after the parry.
If she do 0, this is valid. If not, then not. Collecting game stage here on a position that.
Yep. We do not encourage the use of time travel. If you fail to make a decision when it's time for you to make that decision, too late. So sorry. Information has changed. Other things have happened. Move on with your life. Alright, so that brings the turn back to Enchantress. We have a reading, almost certainly calling the Grasp, and then just Wild Swinging. Yeah, that seems completely safe.
Well, obviously safe.
I'm not sure it's valuable, but it's definitely safe. Okay. Well, that's Beheaded, or it is but now Beheaded's turn. If Beheaded has the bow, I think he plays it. It's still... Oh. Doubling down. Alright, so boosting Giant Killer for +4 power on his next attack. If Enchantress does not have a way to beat the bow, she needs to either move or just change cards and reload it deep into that deck.
Really just to prepare would work.
Or that, but I think if neither of those options, she needs... if neither option beats it, she needs to do something... There you go. That increases her odds. So she's taking a move action and then reloading 7.
This also increases Headed's options.
This also, yeah, this changes what threats are available. Beheaded backing up again, trying to keep that bow threat live. However, at range 5, if Enchantress has access to Magic Shot, she can beat it.
Most importantly, Enchantress can just run away. And
there's one Magic Shot and one Fire Wave remaining. She is threatening both.
This has to be Magic Shot. Way too safe.
Though if it's Beheaded's turn, it is Magic Shot. And it is the bow. And that is lethal. That is game. Alright. Enchantress hits for 1.
Exactly 1.
Yep. GG. That'll be the set.
I'm still so confused.
That was a very interesting set. Alright, well, decided in favor of Poiman64's Enchantress and Serena. Thank you very much for joining me for this cast mix. Thank you everybody who's tuning in to watch or who watches this video later. This is Matchup Madness, largest Exceed tournament to date. If you're interested in Exceed, if you're curious about what you've seen here, if you haven't played it before, you can look for us on the Level 99 Organized Play Discord server, and or you can try Exceed for free on Tabletop Simulator. Tabletop Simulator is not free, to be clear, but this module, which is called XFS Balanced Breakfast, is one that I maintain for competitive play, and it is absolutely free to try on the Steam Workshop.